Hello and welcome. Well, one thing I've learned since I started this podcast last year is that there are many couples out there who are struggling, many couples who are trying to make the decision as to whether they should stay or whether they should go. And that is a really challenging decision. But I want you to listen today as we talk to Demetrius and Emily Russell as they share how their marriage was at the precipice of a cliff and they found a way back to live a life that they want to live together. This is the Silver Divorce Podcast, broadcast from the Whitfield Media Group studios in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I am proud to be sponsored by the Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics and show sponsor Medicare Misty. The Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics is the area's leading provider of multi-specialty orthopedic care. Using innovative surgical techniques and technologies, our team of specialists deliver exceptional results backed by exceptional patient care. Learn more at sportmed.com. Medicare Misty is a real person. She can help answer your Medicare questions. Get real help from her team at medicaremisty.com. I'm your host, Lisa McCluskey, and before we start, I would ask you to please go out and ask your questions in the comments. Leave a comment, and please share this podcast. By sharing, it helps us to reach more people and raises us up in the algorithms, and we can attract great guests like Demetrius and Emily. So, and now, let's podcast. Well, as I've mentioned, I'm here with Demetrius Russell, and he and Emily have been married for 27 years and 4 days, he tells us. Demetrius is a corporate director of human resources, and I did an episode with him, the last episode, on his 382-day journey to personal transformation. And Emily, she is a project senior analyst, a business project senior analyst, but she's also a registered nurse. So she's had a busy career of her own. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so pleased to have you here. And as I mentioned, Demetrius was a guest on my last episode. And as we were talking about his incredible personal journey to transformation, we started to talk about how you two went through a transformation in your marriage as well. And you hit that time of that rocky period and you came to an inflection point of making that decision to divorce or not. And you decided not. So I thought I wanted to have you both on to talk about what happened, how did you get to that point, and how did you find your way back to each other? Because so many of the listeners, as I mentioned, are actually going through that and have reached out to me and said, you know, we're in that phase right now and we don't know what to do. So are you ready for this?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get back to the very beginning. So how did you meet? How did you two come together?
I have my version.
Oh,
And I have the truth.
And she has the truth.
it's always the way it is.
But we met in college at UTC a long time ago, 1994, actually. And we actually lived in the same dorm. And we would see each other all the time, and we would just talk and just became friends. And then she saw that I was awesome, and she wanted to fall in love with me.
Or he would ask me out on dates, and I would be like, no, I'm not looking for anything right now, but thank you.
So you resisted him for a while, huh?
Definitely.
Oh, definitely she resisted.
Yeah. So how long did it take before he broke you down and you finally said yes?
Oh, my goodness. How long was that?
A few months, like at least until November. I guess school started in August, and
Yeah.
we officially got together in November of 1994. So a few months I was able to be like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But then friendship finally took over, and that was our story. We've been together ever since. Right before I turned 19.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you were friends first.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So what attracted you to each other?
You know, I tell people all the time that what attracted me to Emily was her independence. She never ever said to me, I don't need you in my life. She never said that. But her attitude was, I don't need you. Her attitude was more or less that if you're going to be a part of my life, it's because I want you to be a part of my life. So she didn't come across as like needy or dependent or anything like that. And I was just super attracted to her independence, her resolve. Emily is a military brat, so she moved around a lot. So she picked up some knowledge and resiliency that I had never encountered before. So that was attractive to me. Her confidence in who she was and who she just was not going to allow anyone to run over her or dominate her or anything like that. And I really liked that. I really liked her independence.
Great. So, Emily, what about you? What attracted you? What made you finally say yes?
Well, his persistency, was definitely a thing. And he is just hilarious. If you spend any time with him and just get to know him, he is funny. It's like a 24/7 comedy shop. And that's just funny, and it just continues to grow and grow every day. And then he is just this big encourager and motivator. So those are just all things that I just found extremely attractive about him. And he was just a leader. He just is a born leader.
And one of the things that I took away from our conversation is that I called him a people whisperer. He does want to encourage people, and he seems to have a way of lifting everyone up. And it's interesting that translated to the home, because a lot of times it doesn't. People tend to do that at work, and then they come home, and home doesn't get the best version of that. So it's really great to hear that he's that way at home too.
She says that I'm funny. I feel like that one of my life's missions is to make her laugh. And either at my expense or whatever. But if I can make Emily laugh, if I can keep her smiling, if I can make her belly hurt and face ache from laughing, I feel like that's okay. I really love making her laugh. So, and I still have a little bit of ability to make her laugh. So I like that.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so let's get into when you first got married. How did the marriage work? Did you all have traditional roles? Or I know, Emily, you were independent. So tell me a little bit about how things started and how it worked.
Well, as Demetrius mentioned, I was a military brat, or I am a military brat. Once a brat, always a brat, right? But I was raised by my father.
Okay.
So because I was raised by my father, that showed me right out the gate that a man can clean, cook, do the dishes, do the laundry, do all those things. So for me going into a marriage, that was an expectation that everything wouldn't just be on me. It would be a partnership from the beginning. And so even being young, we had split roles, not defined roles, like woman, you cook, man, you go outside and do things. We've always shared those responsibilities. And that was just something that I've always known all my life. So it was an expectation going into marriage.
Yeah, so you expected to have an equal partner in the marriage. And then Demetrius, were you expecting to be an equal partner? Or did you have a different upbringing?
I don't think that I had an expectation, but my upbringing was a little different than Emily's, and different in that they went together like hand in glove, and meaning that I was raised by a single mother and I had 3 sisters. So I had to learn so much about life and female life and all of that, which translated into, I feel like a more empathy or sympathy toward women or what have you. I didn't have a father growing up in my home, which I think had some adverse effects on me and my marriage later on down the road, which we'll talk about. But for me, growing up, with my mom working outside the home, the four of us were expected to do so much insofar as maintaining our home, as far as chores and things like that. So I realized that getting married, nothing was going to change. I didn't have this lofty expectation that I would go out to work every day and come home to fresh baked bread or anything like that. I realized, like Emily said, it was going to be a partnership.
Yeah.
And I realized that in order for this to work, it was going to be a partnership, and it had to be a partnership. So cleaning, cooking, doing whatever, I just felt like, and we have two boys, that there were no gender-specific roles in our home, ever. The only thing that I couldn't do that Emily could do outside of birthing was to love our boys like a mother would. I didn't have that ability. But as far as teaching them to cook or to clean or to do laundry or to whatever, that was not a role reserved for one of us. It was both of our roles.
Yeah.
And so I took great pride in that.
That's interesting because you were both raised by single parents who were strong in their roles, and they each taught you something different that helped you come together with almost similar expectations, it sounds like, as you started the marriage. Okay, so let's get into it. There are countless studies on when people are likely to divorce, and I read that the danger years are years 1 and 2, and also years 5 through 8, but they identified years 7 and 8 as standing out as the most prone to divorce. So when did you all start to see cracks in your marriage?
Emily probably saw cracks on day one. I guess for me, I'm blinded, or maybe it was intentional, but Lisa, I do remember in year 12, it would have been in 2010. I can remember early in May, laying in bed and Emily saying to me that she wasn't happy. And I was like, what exactly does that mean? And then from there, it just became more prevalent and more eye-opening of who I was that was not making Emily a happy wife or a happy person whatsoever. So that started like from there, just like a lifetime of continually looking for ways to make me better, because I knew that if I can make me better, I can make our marriage better. I can make my environment better. Now, I know, and I have an expectation that Emily will know at what point in time she saw. I mean, she just didn't break that day. I think that the pressures of our marriage, or who I was, or what I was doing or not doing, added up to the point that she broke. So I think that she could probably answer that better, because
Yeah. So Emily, was there like a pivotal event that caused you to break, or was it, a slow build where you were kind of going along, not saying a whole lot, and then something just made you say, "That's it. I'm."
So I believe that I've changed since then, but I was a person that let things just build up and build up and build up. So for me, I feel like that it happened over the course of a few years, where you heard at the beginning Demetrius say that one of the things that he admired and loved most about me was my independence. And I felt like that at a certain point in time, I lost that. And that everything that we did or were had to be like as a unit, as a team. Like there was no individual opportunities or no time for self. Everything we did was as a family, as a couple, as this. There was no time for just, self-reflection. And I felt like that there was a lot of control.
So you lost your identity. Now you have children, right? How many?
We have 2.
2 children. Okay. So you somewhat were lost in taking care of everybody else, and you lost yourself. Is that?
I think so. I think just communication and just always needing or having the desire to be together always, nothing independent, was just like something that and then communication and just not being heard, I feel like were the things that were driving forces for me. And I felt like that I wasn't able to make decisions on my own. I wasn't able to do things on my own. And, I think that one day it was just, I came to the precipice and that was enough. And I was like, I'm not happy. And we need to talk about a change.
So, Demetrius, do you think that at that time you were rising in your career at the same time, right? Do you think did that play into it at all? Of
No.
you're not being aware. Were you aware that she was feeling this level of unhappiness, or were you busy with work? And
Honestly, Lisa, I don't think it had anything to do with being caught up in work or anything. It was just, I think it may have been maybe some stubbornness or some selfishness to not recognize or not, I don't want to say not care enough about Emily to visualize or understand her. But I do realize that as time went on, that I've started realizing more and more about the husband that I was, and the husband that I was not the husband or friend or partner that she needed. So I don't think that, I think that the driving force was me. It was, I can't blame anything because she talked to me. She let me know what was going on with her, and I feel like I've always been really in tune, but I think that I was just ignoring some of, or most of, her feelings or things that she was saying to me, or just kind of brushing them off to the side, minimizing them, and things like that. So
yeah, that's easy to do. When you, and I've been through that, where you don't take it as seriously because you've been married for so long and you feel secure in your marriage, and nothing's going to happen to that, where you may not realize how badly that other person feels about what's going on in the marriage. So what was the trigger, Emily? How did you get him to really recognize that, hey, I'm serious about this?
Well, we actually separated, but separated within our home.
Okay. Living as roommates? Is that how you would?
I would. I mean,
Yeah.
He lived downstairs. We had a bedroom in our downstairs, and I lived in our room, and we kind of did things independently of each other for a while. Our oldest son had graduated from high school actually that May, whenever all this transpired. So we just had had moved out. So we just had our youngest at home. And so that was what we did. One thing, though, that I always told him was that I don't ever see our story not ending up together, but it can't continue on the path that it's on. So I think that was something that I said, we need some time apart, but know that I don't see my finish line without you in it.
That's a huge difference, because you guys never talked about divorce, right? Did you ever say that? You did. You did say divorce. Okay.
I did, yes. And I did say it, but I also said that I see me coming back to you in the end. But, if we can't make changes or do things, then, for now, I think it might be best if this is what we do.
Yeah. So how'd that make you feel, Demetrius? What were you thinking at that time? Were you blindsided?
Yeah. Because I felt like my world was crashing down around me, and this is my Emily right here. So I couldn't imagine a world without her. I couldn't. So at this point in time, when she says that to me, and never before this, I want to say that she actually said the words divorce. It would have been in July of 2010. Never before that and never after that has she ever mentioned or previously mentioned the word divorce in relation to our relationship. So it was crushing. I mean, it was like, I'm talking to an audience that has been there or is thinking about going there. So I'm more than positive that when that word is brought up, everybody can relate to
Yes.
the feeling or how you felt. And it's like, it is like, it's bad.
It scares the crap out of you,
Yeah.
I will say.
Yeah.
It does. It's scary.
Yeah.
Because your whole world changes you after that. So it's interesting. You had that conversation. You said divorce. You separated in the home. Your kids, were they aware of what was happening at the time? Did they realize mom and dad are not getting along? And
well, our oldest was gone. He had moved out. So I'm pretty sure he didn't know. But I'm almost positive that our youngest knew something was going on. And, I didn't want to minimize it to him, but I didn't want to lay anything so heavy on him. I think he was in 8th grade at the time.
Right.
I didn't want to put anything so heavy on him that it was going to have an adverse effect on him. But go ahead.
And I was just going to say, understand, we never had fights in front of our children. We never yelled. We don't cuss. We don't do any of those things, and we never did them in front of our children.
Yeah.
okay.
And so, I just didn't want to put something so heavy on him that it was going to affect him negatively, So, but he's smart. So he had to know that, hey, dad is downstairs, mom is upstairs. He had to know. And I know he know. I mean, because, I shared with him that, hey, we're having some issues. We're having some problems, which is, I'm almost positive I even told him this is kind of normal in marriage. I didn't want him to grow up thinking that all marriage all the time was rainbows and butterflies. He needed to know that there are problems in marriage. you know.
But he didn't suspect that you two were talking divorce. You kind of kept that.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think
that's probably good.
Yeah.
That's probably good.
I mean, because, I just felt strongly in me that this is not God's design. It's not like that there was infidelity going on or any kind of chemical dependency, or there was no abuse, no fighting, no anything like that. The things that I feel like are probably more commonly associated with the reasons why people get divorced, there was none of that. And, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'll tell it scream it to the top of my lungs. That was a me thing. That was me just not taking the accountability of being aware of who I was and what I was putting Emily through and all that. And, it got to that boiling point where, it's like the teapot. It was time to explode,
Well, it's not an uncommon story, though, for Emily's situation where she felt as though she had lost her identity and she had lost her voice and she had lost her independence. Many women who are in that situation of taking care of a family and they're working and, they don't have a minute of their own to even think. And also, if the husband is climbing in his career as well, things change. And so we hear that all the time, a lot of times with stay-at-home moms too, that they feel like they've lost their identity. And, kudos for you, Emily, for having the courage to say, this is not going to work for me and something needs to change. So how did you decide, what happened to go from, I think we should talk about divorce, to that decision of, I want to work on the marriage?
I'll tell you, that was her, because, I didn't want that. I didn't want divorce or anything like that. I didn't want to change my address. I didn't want any of that. Okay. So, that was, I'm going to blame Emily on that. That was Emily that, had gotten to that point. And during this, realizing that, this is where we are in marriage, I had made up my mind that I need to work on Demetrius. If Emily is saying that this is what's wrong, I have to evaluate and realize you are the cause of this, and this. I was not going to point the finger at Emily and say, well, she needs to do this and she needs to do this. No. I knew that if I were going to make it out of this season, I needed to work on me. Whether I was going to make it out of this season a married man, or whether I was going to make it out of this season a divorced man, I needed to work on me, because I knew that there was going to be life on the other side of this situation, whether they continued to be married or whether I was going to be divorced. So I knew that I needed to make me better for whatever was going to happen next. Now, what happened next was our marriage continued and is stronger than it's ever been, ever. But I knew that I had to work on me, so I didn't have the opportunity or whatever to point the finger and say she needs to fix X, Y, and Z. No. Her fixing anything that she could identify was wrong was not my responsibility, nor was it my priority. My priority was me.
So you did a period of introspection.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Oh,
Emily, did you recognize that he was changing? Could you see things were happening? Or what were you going through at this time when he was deciding to work on himself?
So one of the things that we actually did a lot of talking about, because that's one of the things we did talk. Mm-hmm. And we would just spend hours just talking and reacquainting ourselves and becoming friends again. And, one of the things I told him is that I really need to see that you are changing, and that it's not a temporary change. It's something that you are, changing from the inside out, so that we will move forward stronger from this. And he did. I mean, he spent time away, spent time in prayer. I spent time in prayer, and he would write me letters, and I have these letters, and he would write me these letters about, how he was feeling and what was happening and where he was and in his life, and how he felt like we got where we were, and, the things that he was doing to try and work on that change, and how we could grow and build that together. So, I mean, he was all in 100% to change and make us better and stronger, and for us to come out as a unified front. So he was really open, after the initial shock of everything.
Right.
He was really open to fight for us.
Yeah, I like what you said about we became friends again, because that was the first thing you said about how you started as friends. And so you had that solid foundation, and you recognized that you had to get back to that first. So that's really powerful. And the other powerful thing I heard was the letters,
Lisa, I'll be honest. I don't even remember the letters. Really? Wow. I am a pretty cool guy.
Well, you are a cool guy, though.
But Lisa, I'll tell you this. Realizing that like I said before, that this wasn't going to last forever. I knew that one day this what I was going through was going to be over. I can remember many times during my prayers praying that God will would help me to not remember some of the things that I was going through.
Right.
And the reason why is because I didn't want to get on the other side of this and then start remembering some of the things that were said or some of the ways that I was feeling, and it bring back some kind of animosity that would keep me from growing. So I'm very thankful that God answered that prayer. I didn't know He was going to wipe my memory of the letters.
The letters. Well, what I like about the letters too is that there's no chance of getting into an argument. You can express everything that you're feeling and thinking, and the person who's receiving the letter has that time to really digest it and think about it, and they don't have to be responding. There's not somebody standing in front of them waiting for a response to what they're saying, but it really provides a more rich platform. And I know in my divorce, one of the things that the therapist said was to write that letter, write what you're thinking about, and it's very therapeutic too. So I'm sure although you don't remember that, writing that letter at that time had to be therapeutic for you.
Got an injury that just can't wait? There's no need to delay your care. Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics is excited to announce that our Urgent Ortho Walk-In Clinic is now available on Saturdays at the Gun Barrel Road location. Open from 8 to noon, we're here to treat sprains, strains, fractures, and more. No appointment needed. So skip the long ER wait and get specialized orthopedic care fast. Visit us this Saturday at Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics Urgent Ortho. We're the center for expert care right when you need it. Learn more at sportmed.com.
I also had a journal that I wrote in daily because, like I said, I knew that one day I was going to be on the other side of this storm or this journey. I knew that by writing and dating it and saying how I felt, I could look back and never forget what I was going through. And sometimes I think that when we go through those traumatic things in our lives or how they make us feel, when we go back and look and remember what that was like, I feel like it really helps us going forward to be better, do better, to
Not slide back.
not slide back. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
speaking of that, did you ever have times where you lost motivation, or maybe you did slide back a little bit and you felt yourselves, or did you feel like you were on a pretty steady pace?
I never felt that way.
Never.
Never.
I think when we made that decision to move forward and be better and do better and communicate more, we did.
Absolutely. Lisa, I can remember, and Emily, I don't know if you remember this, but I can remember, this thing. I can remember it was around about the first week of May that it started, and Emily's birthday is the first week of November, and she came to me and said something to the effect of she wants to work on us. She wants this to work, and I felt like, okay, great. So it was 6 months, but I can remember I took Emily and my son to this place in Sweetwater. It was this place that made cheese, and Emily likes cheese. I can remember driving back on 75 South, and Emily specifically and explicitly said to me, quote unquote, "We are not fixed." And this was just only a few days after she decided that. And when she told me that we are not fixed, I paused for a second. And I looked over at her and I said, "You're exactly right. We are not fixed." And I think it caught her off guard that I said that to her. And I told her that the reason why we are not fixed, and I won't ever look at us as being fixed, because I kind of related it to a clock. If a clock is broken and you fix it, then you'll never pay any more attention to it. And you can neglect it. I said, my marriage, I'm going to look at it as always being something that needs to be worked on, to be repaired, to be made better. I'm never going to assume that our marriage is fixed, because I feel like with us being two imperfect individuals, there's always going to be room for improvement. there's always going to be room for us to grow in each other and individually. So I have never since then looked at our marriage as being quote unquote fixed. I look at our marriage as something that I value, something that she values, and I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to make our time together and the time that we have left on earth enjoyable. I want to miss her when she's out of my presence. I want to be missed when when she's out of my presence, or so on. So, yeah, as far as being fixed, no. I mean, are we in an amazing place? There is absolutely nobody living or has lived that I would want to spend my time with. There's absolutely nobody. We like to refer to our marriage as our little bubble. Our kids or grandkids will come into the little bubble every now and then, and our friends or whatever. But when they go away, it's like we can cozy back up and realize this is our bubble. Whether we're taking a long country drive or going completely out of the way to get a slushie, it's just so awesome to be in that bubble and to be with somebody that gets you.
Well, I'm getting goosebumps just listening to you talk about your marriage. Yeah. And Emily, I want to say, it took courage for you to say we are not fixed, because his reaction could have been, what? I've been doing all this work and you're telling me it's not good enough? Well, I'm done. But that wasn't the reaction that you got from him, thankfully. But were you afraid to say anything, or how are you feeling at that time when, things were going along, but you were still thinking, no, we're not there yet?
So what got us to that point was me not saying things.
Yeah.
Me not expressing how I was feeling, and me not telling him how something made me feel. So when I made the decision that, hey, we need to have some space and separate for a while, I said I wasn't going to not communicate my feelings anymore. And I think that he will tell you that since that time, I have truly been better at communicating my feelings and telling him how I feel, where I stand on something, giving my opinion about it, and pushing through, and not afraid of, just putting it out there any longer. And so for me to do that then, I don't remember that. I'm sure that it's something that I did, but for me to have put it out there, it just holds true to what I said to myself, is that I'm not going to hold back anymore. I want to be able, if we're going to move forward, we need to be able to communicate and talk and get things out in the open and not just hold it until it explodes. And so we've done that. We continue to do that. We talk daily, and I think it was just one of those things that I committed to myself that I was going to do, and not keep it inside anymore.
That's fantastic. And what I love about both of your stories is that you have things you don't remember. She has things that she doesn't remember. It's like you didn't hold on to the past hurts. Looks like you came to a point where you said, we have to let it go and not continue to bring it up, and then move forward. Was that like a conscious decision? Did you talk about that? That, okay, from this point on, we're just going to, or was that just your personalities? That was part of who you are?
Well, I think that we're human, right?
Yeah.
So I think for probably a couple of years, we did do that. And then I think one day we had a conversation about the fact that we had to let this go. If we were going to be able to be successful at moving forward, we had to put that as something that happened, something that we learned from, something that we're changed and growing from, that we won't be those people ever again, and that we needed to move forward from it. And I think from that conversation, we were able to do that. And through prayer and prayer together, we were able to, God helped us to forget.
That is so, I think that's so pivotal. You forgot and you moved forward into what the new version of your marriage was going to look like. when so many times people might get over a hump, but as soon as there's a fight, they're throwing back in each other's faces what happened before. But you two made that conscious decision. We're not going to do that. And I think that was such a strong starting point. Mm-hmm. That's what I love. I love that. I love everything about your story. It just gives me goosebumps, and I hope it really helps people out there. So what are you doing now to stay strong as a couple?
So I think that some of the things that we do to stay strong, we date. And people will probably roll their eyes at me, but he asked me to go on dates all the time, and I'm like, I'm a homebody to a certain extent. I'm like, we had our anniversary last Friday.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Thank you. And I was just like, I can't wait to get home, get on the couch and watch a movie. and I was like, is there anywhere else you'd rather be or doing, or what you'd rather be doing tonight? And he's like, no, I just want to be with you. But we make plans together. We go on vacations together. We go on dates, but we also do things independently. You know, I go on girls' nights. He goes on golfing trips. You know, we do things that make us really appreciate the time where we are together, and then have areas where we're not together and can come back and really express how we had fun and missed our little bubble and glad to be back at it, and really jump back into just being us. So we love us.
You're preserving your independence. It's like you have an identity as a person, yep, and then you have your identity as a married couple. And I think that is so key, because you see people when they marry, they meld into this one identity, and that causes so many problems. So I love the fact that you're really deliberate about maintaining a separate person identity as well as your couple identity.
Yeah, and I think that probably started so long ago. I can remember when we were raising our boys, you know, they were big into sports and life, and we were into their life. And I think I just remember seeing or hearing about a lot of couples that at the end of their children's like sports or high school or whatever, the kids would leave, and then you'd have two people that looked at each other and didn't have a clue
who are we? Yeah.
And I was like, that is not going to happen to us. I specifically remember a time, Lisa, when me and Emily got up one Saturday morning. Our boys were younger. Both of them were still living at home. And we left. And we just went. I remember we called it a 3-state adventure. We left. We went down to Scottsboro, Alabama, came over, had lunch in Georgia, and came through Tennessee. And at one point in time, our youngest called us and said, "Hey, where are you guys?" And I was like, "We're in Alabama." And he was like, well, why didn't you ask us to go? And I was like, because you very possibly could have said yes.
That was the whole point, right?
We wanted our time. Well, what are we going to eat? And I was like, there's food there. My 18-year-old, he wasn't 18 at the time. I guess he would have been 16, 17-year-old, said, how am I going to get to work? I'm like, you can walk or ride your bike. It's right down at the bottom of the hill. But I knew that.
Good for you.
Yeah. We're not going to be a couple that chased careers, chased money, did everything to follow our children and get to the end of time and realized we don't know each other. Mm-hmm. So we made a conscious effort, and we still do, to do things together. I mean, and I know that there have been times that Emily has joined me in some activity or watched a movie with me or something that she knew I really wanted to do, and she wasn't that much wanting to do it, but she wanted to hang out with me. And I know that there have been some times that I've done the same thing, but I knew that she was happy, she was excited, and I wanted to be a part of that, because I love making her happy, but I love seeing her happy as well. So if it's going to make her happy and make her feel good, I'm like, let's do it, let's go for it. Mm-hmm. So. But I think the most important thing is that, we're friends. We're really close friends. I wonder sometimes, and I've said this to her, that if people see how we interact, they would wonder, have they been married for 27 days or 27 years?
Oh, that's great.
I mean, because, we do crazy stuff like hold hands. We kiss in public. I mean, we lean on each other, and we just so happy together. And to be able to look at your spouse after as long as we've been together and feel like that she lights up when she sees me, and the way that she smiles at me lets me know that, hey, there is something going on right in this marriage. And I know that Emily's mentioned it, but, I would be remiss to sit here and say that I did this on my own. No, not at all. Because I have in the past given Emily every reason to leave and walk away, but it is because of our relationship with Christ and how Christ is the center of our marriage that has gotten us over the humps and hurdles and pitfalls of marriage. I mean, because anybody listening to this that's married knows marriage is not easy. Mm-hmm. There are some easy times, but marriage is difficult at times. But I cannot think of any more rewarding relationship than that of marriage.
Yeah. You also said something really important, and that's the physical connection, the physical touch, and it goes beyond, not just what happens in the bedroom, but that holding hands and that leaning into each other and just maintaining that physical touch is important. I had Carissa Kay on, who's a certified sex therapist, and she said women need 12 non-sexual hugs a day to be happy. And it sounds like you kind of mastered that. You guys keep that physical connection going.
Right.
And that feeds into the emotional connection.
And we have our goofy little kiss. We have a triple kiss with a forehead. I mean, we have our own little way about us. We have our own language. We have our own. I mean, we've known each other.
Yeah.
We've been together longer than we've been apart of our lives. So, we have grown up together. I mean, I've been with him since I was 19 years old. We truly, from a kid to where we are now, kids, grandkids, degrees, all of the things, we've done it together. And so no one knows my story better than him, and no one knows his story better than me. And there's just so many things that only we know about each other, and only we will ever know about each other. And it's just our own little bubble.
That's wonderful. I am so glad you two made your way back to each other, and it sounds like you're stronger than you ever were in your marriage. So I'm going to ask, what's inspiring you today?
Pickleball.
Oh, we love pickleball. What's inspiring me today is knowing that I have a partner for life. Lisa, as you can obviously see, we're an interracial couple. I'd like to tell people, and I've said this a bunch of times, when we got married, or even started dating, Emily, not by her words, but by her actions, said, nothing else matters to me. And then obviously when we got married, she, by saying I do, she said, nobody's opinion, nobody's thoughts, no words that anyone in her family or my family or anybody could say matters. And I look at that as something of great importance that I don't take, or try not to take for granted, realizing that she has had and has an expectation that I am going to provide her everything that she needs to be the person and the wife and mom and Gigi that she's going to be. And it's a great responsibility. So it's exciting to me to know that she leans on me, and I I hope she gets excited knowing that I lean on her. So I'm just inspired knowing that what I have with Emily is a life partner, and that really means something. I have somebody that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt she's going to be there, and it's great knowing that no matter how bad or how good or indifferent my day or what have you is, she's there and she's going to talk to me. She knows. I mean, there have, during my 382 journey that I talked about in episode 25, I can remember one day, and I can't remember what was going on, but she knew something was wrong with me. She knew something was wrong, and I can't even remember what was going on, but I can remember her grabbing my face, and the way she put both her hands on my cheek. I thought she was coming in to give me a kiss, but she put both her hands on my cheek, and she started to pray for me, and I thought, wow. Oh. I thought I was getting a kiss. I got a kiss after she prayed for me, but I have...
she knows you so well. She knew at that moment what you needed.
Yeah. She knew exactly what I needed. And so, to have somebody that you can open up to and be that vulnerable to, who loves you and cares for you despite of who you are and what you have and all that, it's amazing. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. So, Emily, I want to ask you, for women out there who are in that position, who are not happy, have not, feeling like you were feeling, what advice do you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, the one thing that you need to look at is yourself and decide, are there things within you that you can change, and what do you really want? Do you want to make this work? Because if you don't want to make it work, it's not going to ever work. So if you want to make it work, you've got to look internally and say, what are some things that I can change, that I'm willing to commit to make this better? And then communication is key. You have to be willing to communicate, and not only communicate, but be able to actively listen and hear. Because everything that our spouse and partners tell us is not going to be positive. There are things that they say every day that we're just like, I could have done without you saying that to me. But as long as we're receptive to hearing and growing and learning and communicating, and then asking questions, you can grow in your marriage and grow in yourself. So I just say to look inwardly to see what can you change about you, and then communicate what it is that would be better for you if was changed with your partner.
Great. That's wonderful advice.
And I do want to say that this guy, he said all those nice things, but he is my best friend. Like, he's my motivator. He's my best friend. Like, I don't know if he said this to you or not, in that journey that he was on. When it ended, I cried.
Oh.
Because I was like, this is going to change us. This is going to change for most people, if you have that and you have that person at home, they're on your nerves, or you see them all the time. It wasn't like that. There was like a total peace about the whole situation. And when it ended, I was like, this is gonna change who we are. And I just want to make sure that we remember who we were during this journey, and continue to be there for each other and happy and communicate and just do all these things, because you're going to go out there and kill it, but don't forget about me.
Oh, I don't think he would. I don't think he could ever forget about you.
No. Yeah, I can remember that. She was like, she cried, and I know that she was happy for me, but she just. But I understood. I felt that from her, and I just remember hugging her and telling her everything's gonna be all right. I'm going back to work. But, I guess having somebody around the house all the time, it could be easy to, for that person to get on your nerves or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, it was a very sentimental day, that moment. But, to piggyback off what Emily said real quick, I think marriage is a daily exercise of self-reflection. Whenever there have been times when Emily hasn't felt well, or I felt like something was going on, and I want to examine. Now, back in the old days, I would like, what's wrong? Let me fix, because I think that that's what our role is sometimes, is to fix. But I needed to figure out, okay, have I done something? Have I said something? Have I not done something? Did she tell me something that I forgot about or whatever? So it's a lot of self-examination. Now, don't get me wrong. We don't walk around each other on eggshells or anything like that at all. I think that, when you are in tune with your partner, when you are in tune, I remember a couple of years ago, I came home from work and she just seemed different. Something was going on. I knew something was going on. And then Emily's worked at home forever, for 10, 11, 12 years. And then it just dawned on me. She works in this house. She eats in this house. She sleeps in this house. Everything in this house is her life. Our dogs are her life in this house. And I just realized we need to get out of the house. And I think that day we went walking in the battlefield, and we did maybe grab something to eat, but and she later told me she needed that. And I just felt like, you got to get out of here. And that's something that I pay attention to, is when she starts to feel that, I guess, cabin fever or some kind of way, let's get out and let's go do something. I don't care if it's a drive or what, let's get out of this.
Yeah. It's all about being in tune with your partner. You're in tune now with her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, your story has certainly inspired me, and I hope it will inspire many people who are out there and they're feeling the same way, that they were living as roommates or they're not happy, and how do they recapture that? Because divorce is very hard, and then after divorce, finding that partner to live the rest of your life with is extremely hard, especially we're talking to people who are in that gray divorce category and they're older. So your story it's left me goosebumps on many times, and I've enjoyed getting to know both of you. So thank you so much for being here, both
Absolutely.
Emily and Demetrius.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate the opportunity. I often tell Emily that if people could hear us or see us and they draw some strength or some inspiration through our relationship, then I feel like that we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
And just one other thing. I think that's one of the most important things that can be said for your marriage and keeping your marriage strong, considering the circumstances, okay? If you're being abused or something like that, does not apply. But as far as like building a healthy relationship and knowing each other, our marriage is private. It's not anybody else's business. We're not sharing it in the streets. I'm not talking to people about him. People don't know anything about our marriage except us, unless we want them to know it. And so if we have an argument or a fight, I'm not turning to somebody and saying, hey, Jenny, can you believe what this bonehead did today? That's not happening. And so when things are going wrong or not happening well in our marriage, it's between us, and we're discussing it and keeping it private and working it out. So that way you don't have a bad taste in your mouth about him if but I just think that that's just so imperative, that our marriage is not in the streets. We keep it ours. It's our thing. It's our bubble, and we protect it with all we have.
I don't think you can say that loud enough, because there are so many times when, the wife or the husband will go grouse to maybe a mother. Maybe the wife is grousing to her mother, and then they don't understand why the mother doesn't like the husband. Or, you see on Facebook, I have this one friend, every time she and her boyfriend have a fight, it's, I'm done with this man. She posts it on Facebook, and then they're back together the next day, and everybody knows. And it makes it much harder when your circle of influence hears nothing but bad things about your spouse. and it's hard to walk it back because everybody's going to have an opinion and they're going to share that opinion with you. So that is so smart that you've kept your marriage private.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of sums up to our business is not everybody else's business.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Huge takeaways. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And if you haven't listened to episode 25, where Demetrius shares his 382-day personal journey to transformation, I encourage you to do that. And please join me for the next episode. Before I go, please leave that rating and a review. And it does help me to attract great guests like Emily and Demetrius. This podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics and Medicare Misty. Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics is the area's leading provider of multi-specialty orthopedic care. Using innovative surgical techniques and technologies, our team of specialists deliver exceptional results backed by exceptional patient care. Learn more at sportmed.com. Medicare Misty is a real person who can help answer your Medicare questions. Get real help from her team at medicaremisty.com. Whether you are considering divorce or you are newly in the divorce process, we'll help you on your journey and tell you things your attorney might not tell you. Until next time, remember, divorce is one event. It does not define who you are. I'm Lisa, and I'll see you next time.